What is up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood sound alchemist, bringing you more Bionicle lore. Scratch that. It is 40 facts on the Warhammer 40k universe. This time, we're going to be targeting a character of the Dark Angels that goes by the name of Belial. Belial? Belial? Which is it, guys? We can't pronounce names. Oh no! Anyway, I used to play Dark Angels back when I quit playing Tau, and I went to Space Wolves, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Deathwing, and then I went over to... what else did I play? I don't know, I went through a lot of stuff before finally coming back to the Tau. Anyway, guys, here is 40 facts on the Dark Angels, Belial. The semi-feudal world of Burgundia is ruled by a number of knightly orders called societies, and when it was the nobility of the society of the Ebon Star that Belial was born into. Son of the society's Magister Militum, Belial was destined from birth to be a warrior and a leader, and he was raised accordingly. He learned to wield a sword as soon as he was able to lift one, and into his young mind was poured all the principles of Burgundian chivalry, military strategy, and the precepts of command. As a recruiting world for the Sons of the Lion, Burgundia is visited by the chaplains of the Dark Angels every few decades, so that they might pick up the most prominent and skilled knightly aspirants and squires for testing. Such an event happened shortly after Belial's 17th birthday, the equivalent of 11 standard years by Terran reckoning, but the youth's father forbade him from entering the tournament, which would determine the hopeful boy's fate. Belial was destined to become Magister Militum, like his forefathers were. Belial stole the armor of a low-tier knight, and he ignored his father's command and entered the contest anyway. He kept his visor lowered to conceal his identity. None could best him, and he was duly declared the Ebon Star's candidate to be tested as a chapter aspirant. When Chaplain Lamorak demanded that the young knight remove his helm to be identified, Belial refused, fearing that his father would see him and withdraw his application. Lamorak insisted, and Belial again deferred, claiming that he would rather face the chaplain in combat than reveal himself. Lamorak accepted this challenge, expecting to best the upstart squire in moments, but the duel that followed lasted a full 7 minutes, an extraordinary effort for any non-augmented human. Eventually, Lamorak landed a blow that sent Belial crashing to the floor, and the youth was bested. Forced to remove his helm, he revealed his true identity. As Belial feared, his father demanded that the Dark Angel choose another aspirant, but Lamorak overruled the Magister Militum, saying that Belial was surely the most capable recruit he had ever encountered since becoming chaplain. The Society of the Ebon Star would lose a proud warrior and future leader, but their loss was to the benefit of the Dark Angels, and overall, the Imperium of mankind. When Belial finally ascended to the full rank of Battle Brother, his first act was to challenge the chaplain once again, a duel that Belial won in under a minute. The teachings of the Dark Angels and the doctrines of the Ebon Star are combined in Belial, driving him to seek a state of perfection as both a warrior and a space marine. Brutally efficient with a bolter and blade, Belial had few peers amongst his brethren. He applied the same drive to learning the principles of tactics and strategy, command and logistics, and though his rise was not as meteoric as some of the most famed masters of the chapter, Belial's knowledge and skill is wide-ranging and perhaps without equal. Belial eventually rose to the prominence as a master of the chapter while fighting during the Black Crusade of Furion, a formidable chaos lord dedicated to the bloodthirsty god Khorne. In the ruins of the vast temple Saturnus, on the ravaged cardinal world of Durga Principle, the Dark Angels' Third Company were set to halt the Black Crusade of Furion. Dedicated to Khorne, Furion had already laid waste to 17 star systems. Imperial forces, including Space Marines from several chapters, amongst them the Angels of Absolution, confronted the horde of the Chaos Champion. In support of the Successor chapter, the Dark Angels dispatched their Third Company. Furion was carnage incarnate, tearing into the Dark Angels without pause. Belial met the Cornet champion face to face, even as the rest of his squad battered Furion's personal guard. Matching his discipline against pure rage, Belial eventually managed the bloody victory by slicing through Furion's leg and placing 2 bolt rounds into the corrupt heart as he fell. The death of Furion threw the Chaos Army into disarray. The Third Company were able to pour fire onto the Cornet hordes from new positions, and with their leader dead, the Black Crusade splintered and was destroyed over the following months. Returning to the Rock, Belial was promoted to the rank of Master of the Third Company. To mark his achievement against Furion, Azrael himself presented Belial with the Sword of Silence, one of the fabled Heavenfall blades. It has been his badge of office and honor ever since. Despite his victories, Belial's quest for perfection continued as he became accustomed to his new role. The Third Company was turned into a benchmark of discipline and lethal efficiency, never once giving thought to defeat. Belial fought in dozens of campaigns, most notably against the Orc warlord Gascoigne Thraka and Nazdrag on the world of Pacina IV during the Third War of Armageddon. Despite suffering near-terminal injuries, Belial went on to command a successful holding action against the Orc invaders, saving the capital Calidus Harbor from repeated attacks. When Grand Master Gabriel was slain during the Deathwing aboard the Space Hulk Charnel Shrine during the events of the 13th Black Crusade, there was only one candidate for his replacement, voiced by the inner circle of the chapter. Belial's reputation as hard but fair taskmaster, coupled with his personal prowess, made him the obvious successor. Belial wanted to correct the mistakes that happened aboard this Space Hulk, and so he took his Deathwing and boarded the enormous conglomeration of different vessels that stretched over 20 cubic miles. This Space Hulk was inhabited by both a large brood of Genestealers and an Orc tribe, which occupied opposite ends of the massive structure. This campaign was waged incessantly for 73 solar days. The Deathwing launched assault after assault, driving the Genestealers out of their brood nest towards the Orc, while simultaneously purging the Orc settlement to force the Greenskins into the Tyranid bioconstructs. The inevitable conclusion was fighting between the two alien races, draining their strength further. Like a predator stalking its prey, the Deathwing cleansed the passages and rooms, eliminating the survivors of both alien species, advancing deeper and deeper into the Hulk, with Belial always at the forefront. The final engagement aboard the Charnel Shrine took place around the plasma reactor. Assured that the Xenos inhabitants had been corralled into this one-component vessel, Belial led another strike team accompanied by several tech marines. The reactor was brought back online and forced into overcharge. Under bombardment by the Dark Angel vessels in attendance, the Orcs and Genestealers were prevented from escaping, while the Deathwing teleported to safety. The resulting explosion ripped apart the Hulk, destroying everything that remained. Never one to overlook any detail, Belial sent search and destroy teams into the remnants for a further 18 solar days, until he finally declared the enemy wiped out and the company's honor restored. As well as many campaigns against Xenos, heretics, and mutants, and also the forces of chaos, Belial has been instrumental in the hunt for the fallen angels. His temperament of ruthlessness and efficiency intersects well with the more flamboyant approach practiced by Grand Master Samael of the Ravenwing. Recent plans to capture the Fallen combine Samael's daring and creativity with Belial's thoroughness and persistence, and the Interrogator Chaplains have been kept busy by their efforts over the later decades of the early first millennium. To Belial, every Fallen yet to be captured is a stain upon the chapter's honor and his own, and their continued existence is an affront to his nature. To the Grand Master of the Deathwing, the quest for redemption and the search for perfection are one and the same. And now we move on to the war gear of Belial. To represent his venerable status within the ranks of the chapter, Grand Master Belial wears master-crafted, tactical dreadnought armor into battle. When leading the Deathwing to war, he is known to wield a thunderhammer. Favored by those wearing Terminator armor, this formidable melee weapon releases a terrific blast of electromagnetic energy when he strikes at his foes. Used in conjunction with his Thunderhammer, Belial's Storm Shield provides additional protection when fighting in close quarters. The Energy Shield's field generator is very useful in close combat, where it is capable of deflecting almost any attack, even those blows from power weapons. The Sword of Silence. In times of need, Belial wields the famously master-crafted power sword known as the Sword of Silence. This sword is one of the legendary swords collectively known as the Heavenfall Blades. These formidable weapons are only carried by the highest-ranking members of the inner circle of the Dark Angels. The chapter lore states that these blades were forged from the core of a meteorite that struck the rock in orbit around the pharaoh world of Al-Baradad. The mightiest of these blades is the Sword of Secrets, carried by the Supreme Grandmaster of the chapter, and current wielder of that sword is Azrael. The blades wielded by the Master of the Deathwing and the Master of the Ravenwing also utilize small amounts of the obsidian taken from the meteorite in their working. It is also said that a small portion of this meteoric substance was dispatched to each of the Dark Angel successor chapters, so that the senior members of the Unforgiven's own inner circles would also bear the same heritage forged in steel as those borne by the Masters of the Dark Angels. The Sword of Silence has traditionally been gifted to the most lethal close-quarters combatant in the Dark Angels. The Sword of Silence seems to swallow nearby light and sound, absorbing them into its glowing obsidian blade. And with that brings us to yet the end of another epic 40k lore. Let me know what you think about Belial? What's his name? Anyway guys, this guy's pretty beast. I don't know if it's the same, but I know back then you could equip them with a bunch of different weapons, whether it was a thunderhammer, the sword, or lightning claws. Basically, he was an awesome named character that can be outfitted any way you needed to. So you could, like, if you knew you were going to go in close and be hitting vehicles, give him the thunderhammer. If you wanted him to be just an awesome beast in close combat, give him the Sword of Silence. That was awesome. I think I only played like 2 games with him before I sold my Dark Angels. But he was pretty cool. I've always liked him ever since. Let me know if you guys also like Belial. If you guys have played him, what do you think about him? And how do you think his rules now will transfer over to 8th edition? Will he still be a boss, or less of that? Anyway guys, let me know what other Dark Angel characters you wish me to cover. Don't forget to check out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages, where we have a bunch of more 40k content. As always, I am the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.